Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Defining Discipline podcast. This is episode 336, as well as day 336 of my journey. I'm your host, Scott. At the beginning of the year, I challenged myself to run 365 days in a row, all outside, bearing the elements, whatever it brings here in the state of Michigan. I also challenged myself to run 1,500 miles within this yearly time frame. Also to run two races, bigger races within this time frame. A 50K ultra marathon trail race, as well as the Detroit Free Press Marathon were the two races. The 50K trail race was on day 156 of my journey. I finished that 31-mile race within 7 hours, 15 minutes, and 22 seconds. That was the Yankee Springs 50K trail race in Middleville, Michigan on June 5th. The Detroit Free Press Marathon was on day 290 of my journey. I finished that race within 3 hours, 57 minutes, and 28 seconds. And both of those races were personal records for me. So I was very excited about both of those times, and we are on day 336. So clearly I was able to keep the run streak alive as well since both of those races. But speaking of day 336, let's actually pull up the mileage for the day, week, month, and year and break that down quickly before we get into today's actual episode. So for the day today, got out there and put in 5.2 miles. That put me at 25.6 miles for the week, which put me at 11.4 miles for the month, which put me at 1,586.8 miles for the year. So we are clearly past the 1,500 mile mark for the yearly mile goal. So I crossed that, and I'm now shooting for kind of the 1,750 mark. So right now we are sitting at 1586.8. So a couple more days we'll be probably across 1,600 miles, and then I'll have 150 miles from there to try to pump out throughout the rest of this month. So other than that, let's focus in quickly on these monthly miles of 11.4. Every single month I challenge myself to run a 100-mile challenge, and I do it in honor of a charity in which I donate money to, as well as I start a coinciding fundraiser to raise money and awareness for. For the first 11 months, raise money for 11 great charities. Now we're here within the 12th month, the month of December, and December's 100-mile challenge is in honor of St. Jude Children's Hospital. So if you would like to donate to this month's fundraiser, you can find the link to do so on the Defining Discipline Instagram story or the Defining Discipline Facebook story, or my personal page's Instagram story, or my personal page's Facebook story. Within those stories, you will click on the link. It'll open up the actual Facebook page where you're able to make your donations. Keep in mind, all donations that get made go directly to this cause. Facebook is not taking any percentage or portion of your donations. I do know times are tough as well, though. Not everyone can afford to make a donation. If that is the case, and you would still like to help out, you can click on that share button, because like I said, we are trying to raise awareness for these causes throughout this month. Other than that, we can kind of be ready to get into today's actual episode. So let's do so. As always, right before the episode, we're going to go over today's word of the day. That is smarmy. Smarmy means behaving in a way that seems polite, kind, or pleasing, but is not genuine or believable. That is actually a good word of the day. So We'll screenshot it. I like it. Now, let's get into today's actual episode. Episode 336, day 336. Today's theme for today's episode is ownership. And to quickly get to that, was thinking about what today's episode was going to be about on today's run. And today is December 2nd, 2021. So it's 12022021. It reads forward, backwards, and even if you flip it upside down. So it's a ambigram and a palindrome. So thinking about that, it made me think, it's one thing that all these things have in common, which is kind of off topic and maybe you don't even understand what I mean there. But it's one word, but any way you flip it, it's just that same word. Or in this instance, same number, forward, backwards, upside down. It is the main thing. So you could say, oh, it's this, but no, it's that. It's always going to be that. And it made me kind of think of ownership in general, because it is something over, especially these past 2 years, I've been really trying to focus in on and take more of, because I know for me, myself, it was something that I was lacking for a long time in my life, not taking any ownership, in general. One, just not taking the ownership to really strive to do anything better. Even thinking back to when really doing music and stuff, I just did the bare minimum and never really took on the ownership, even though it was technically my band and all of that. Not my band, but I was kind of the lead singer, writer, whatever. Yeah, I had members that also helped, but I was kind of the lead of the band, so I never took enough ownership within that. Stemmed from there, and I blamed everyone else for my problems throughout my life. And it wasn't until these past few years of actually sitting back and thinking, you know, it's time for me as a person to kind of really look and evaluate some things in my life, how I got here, why I got here, what did I do to contribute to myself getting here. And it was me really trying to think about that, take some ownership on, and it kind of even led to me doing this, of running and kind of going out there and getting something to really, you know, grind at every single day, and take ownership for something. And it was, to really focus on my health and get better at something and get better at this. So, over these past few years, I've been really trying to take on more ownership in general, just because, I think it's the right thing to do. Even in certain situations of, if you screw up or you mess up, something I've been doing, if I screw up and mess up, I try to not make any excuse, and just go with straight, just taking ownership. I screwed up, no excuse. It's my fault. And not, one thing I'd always do is, it was this is what caused it, or this and this and this and this and this. And just, even if that is the case, just take the ownership. It's there's nothing you're going to do about it. You blaming something of happening, of all this chain events of happening, of why something happened. If you just get straight to the point and take ownership, move on, you can actually learn from what you actually did wrong, or why that chain of events may have happened, how you contributed to it, whatever the case may be. Maybe it was just a fluke and it was a chain of events that really did just kind of fall apart in front of your eyes. But if you had any truly thing to do with it, you need to take the ownership. And it's something I've been really trying to focus in on. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today's episode. I know it's a little bit different than a little bit of these more recent previous episodes, but that's how we kind of started the podcast. was focusing in on certain things that I know I needed to work on as an individual. Um, and, ownership was definitely one of them. And one thing I want to bring up too, that I've also brought up in previous episodes that were more like this, is that these things I do bring up, like ownership, I'm not bringing it up because it's something that I have solved. I'm not bringing it up because I think I have it completely figured out. I mean, I think I have the idea of it figured out, but it's something that it's an everyday process that you need to work on every single day. That I'm going to have to continuously work on every single day. It's not something that you can just plug and play. It's something that like everything else takes practice, takes work over and over and over again to try to really begin to take that ownership and work on whatever it is that I need to work on. Today's episode is ownership. There's been previous episodes, but that is the whole concept, is these things we talk about, or I've talked about, are things that I need to work on a daily basis. And I think that, a lot of people may be able to relate to these things as well. I think a lot of us like to point the finger, or uh, even just, like I said, possibly make excuses or why things may have happened, instead of just taking on the ownership and doing it that way, as well as just taking on the ownership of the situation, ownership of a team, or whatever it may be that you're doing within your life. Just taking on that responsibility and owning up to whatever life is throwing at you. And again, it's just basically about not making any excuses. So for your daily discipline today, episode 336, it is going to be exactly that. It's going to take some ownership within your life. Really, really figure out, what it is, where you want to be in your life, and what it is that you are doing that's kind of holding you back from getting where you want to be. And maybe you've been blaming not enough time. We'll actually sit back, look at where you're taking your time up in your day. You can say, well, I work all day and then I come home and, it's my only time. So I spend 2 hours binge watching shows before I go to bed because I got to go back to work in the morning. Well, it's like, yeah, I get it. Everyone wants time to kind of relax and wind down, especially after work. But if you're passionate enough about something and you want something bad enough, you're going to put that before, you know, necessarily watching and binge watching shows and doing that. That's something, um, you know, something that I've really kind of, especially these past few months where I've been going hard with the running, um, I haven't been watching much TV or a lot of shows, and just kind of been focusing on getting all this done and working, because I don't have much time after work and spending time with the family to actually sit back and watch shows by the time the baby's asleep and I can watch a good show. I don't have a good amount of time, so it just doesn't happen. So that's a sacrifice I've made. But again, this is all just coming back to taking ownership within your life, and trying to really figure out what kind of things you can do to really get to that point within your life that you want to get, and start really realizing that you are the one that's in control of that. And no matter what it is that whatever excuse you have that you say is blocking you or stopping you from doing it, there's always some um, you know there's always going to be some kind of way around to kind of work around and really um, get to where you need to go. And I understand there's plenty of things that can be stopping you, maybe physical disabilities or anything like that. I get that. I'm just talking about an overall, um, the overall message is to really truly take some ownership within your own life. So that is your daily discipline for the day today. Other than that, I want to thank you guys so much for following along and listening. If you guys can, please give the podcast a like, a subscribe, a follow, and a share on our Facebook, our Instagram, our TikTok, um, YouTube, and whatever podcast streaming platform you've been following along and listening on. Other than that, um, again, the whole message of this podcast is to work on ourselves on an individual level, because I think that is truly how we make the world a better place. So let's do that, and let's stay disciplined, get our daily discipline done, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for episode 337. And until then, peace out.